Hey guys, it's Ramsey. I thought I would pop on and make a quick tutorial on how you can achieve some floral cluster cookie designs similar to what you see in this photo here. They really honestly aren't that complicated, and they can take your bridal shower sets, your spring sets, even baby shower sets, any kind of set to the next level. So let's start with the large floral cluster cookie. I flooded this off camera and splattered it with a little gold luster dust and let it crust. I did not let this base dry all the way. If you let your base dry all the way and then try and pipe your leaves on top, you're opening up some room for craters here, and we don't want that. So just let your base crust over, and that's when you can start piping out your leaf designs, and that will again help prevent craters in each little section of your leaves. So this first little twig, I decided to do kind of a rounded leaf look, like a teardrop shape in each section. You can honestly do whatever you want here. This design is so versatile, and you can pipe your leaves however you want to. So this is just what I decided to do as a design technique. So I outline this first little leaf twig with toothpaste consistency icing. I outline with it, and I'm filling in the leaf sections with it as well. Also, try to keep each little section of this twig separate and not touching each other. Otherwise, they'll kind of melt into each other and become a kind of a glob. That's why it's a huge benefit to use, toothpaste consistency here for the leaves. Now I'm going to take my darker shade of green, still in a toothpaste consistency icing, and pipe out some longer, skinnier type leaves in this little area of the cutter right here, or the shape. Once again, like I said, there's so many different designs that you can do on this, and this is just what I chose to do. So I have those skinnier, longer leaves, and then in the same color, I'm gonna pull out just some strands, and you kind of see how those will eventually lay under the big flower that's going to go on top. And now just fill in those long skinny leaves we just piped with the same way that you did the other twig. And just to add a little extra to the design, I'm gonna pipe some white little dots on top of those strands that I piped in green. And this is toothpaste consistency icing as well. And one last touch for the greenery here, I'm just going over each little section of the leaf in the color that I piped. And adding just a little line down each section. It just kind of adds a little extra detail and dimension to the greenery. And now for the super fun final part, the actual big flower on top. I'm using a petal tip here, and you see the longer tip is pointed down. And I am just basically going to touch it down, wiggle, 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 pull back, and repeat that process in sections for this flower. You'll see me do it again. Here we go. Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. Let's do it again and rotate. Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. Rotate. Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. Rotate. Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. And then we're going to do it again, but do it further in towards the flower in smaller sections. See how I'm doing that? Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. It's a little bit faster because it's in the middle top. Touch down, wiggle, 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 come back. There we go. And here's another little fun floral twiggy design that you can add into your sets. It's similar to the first one, but we're gonna do a little bit different technique here that you'll see in just a little bit to achieve those flowers. But all I did off camera here for the base is just brush on some white royal icing with a paintbrush and a tiny bit of water. And then I let it sit for about maybe 10 minutes before adding the greenery on right here that you see me doing. And I do recommend with a floral cutter like this, because there's so many different ways you can design the twigs and the leaves, I recommend tracing this cutter on some paper or something before you actually bring icing into the mix, and just kind of sketching out an idea for the placement of your twigs and flowers. That's what I did on a piece of paper for this. Now, I didn't follow it exactly, but visually it kind of helped me place where I wanted those flowers on the actual cookie. So for the green here, I'm doing the same thing we did before. I'm using toothpaste consistency icing for the outlining and the filling in of each little leaf section. So this is kind of random to throw this in right here, but while I'm thinking of it, some cookie artists might shy away from piping out flowers and designs in their cookie sets like this, because you have to use pretty stiff icing for those flowers to hold their shape, and that will create kind of a hard bite for your customer. So what I do in situations like that, when I have a customer that requests floral designs, I give them a heads up and tell them that that portion of the cookie will be stiffer and harder to bite, but what they can do is just pop off that top flower, especially if it's a thick one like the design we piped before this one. They can just pop off that top flower and either discard it, eat it by itself, or melt it in some tea and coffee, so they can just eat the cookie underneath. I wanted to bring in that lighter color green on this cookie just for an extra pop, but I didn't want it to overpower anything, so I'm just adding in a few little tiny leaves in random spots, and I'm gonna take my scribe and just pull it out at the tip just a little bit more so it's a little bit pointier on each of those lighter green leaves, just kind of for a different look. And then for the white flowers on this cookie, I did not even use a tip. I just put my stiff icing into an icing bag, put the seam up, and cut it at a slant, just like a petal tip. I did not have a tiny petal tip, but I needed these flower in the similar shape as the one before it to kind of match in the set. So I just made my own. You can do that with a petal tip. It's just kind of an easy slanted snip at the top of your bag. And as long as your seam is up and that longer point on your slanted cut of the bag is pointing downwards, you just kind of squeeze out the icing that way in a wiggle motion, similar to what we did before, but not exactly. It's just on a lot smaller scale, if that makes sense. So it is possible to create some beautiful floral designs without even using any tips at all. So go tipless, everybody, if you want. And I totally should have added my leaf lines in before adding the white flowers, but yeah, sometimes I forget. Still possible to add them in though. And voila, a simple, beautiful little greenery sprig. Okay, I hope that helped show you how simple it can be to pipe some beautiful flowers in your cookie sets. Have a great day, everybody.